I met Jim in our sophomore year of high school after I became pregnant. We had a class together and spent a lot of time talking. He was one of the only people who didn't make me feel embarrassed for being pregnant so young. Eventually, I gave birth and returned to school. He expressed how much he missed me, so one thing led to another, and we started dating. It wasn't easy. Although my mom adopted my son, I still had the responsibility of helping to raise him. During our 6th month of dating, things became difficult. His mother became violent toward him for dating a girl with a child that wasn't his. At the time, I thought it was unfair, but now I understand her perspective. Either way, I decided to end our relationship. Fast forward to 2022. We had kept in contact over the years and often checked in on each other. I never forgot him, as he was the sweetest, kindest person I knew, and it was the best relationship I'd ever been in. I had decided to move to Colorado. It had been a lifelong dream of mine, but I wanted to see him one last time. So I texted him about my plans and invited him to my going-away party. He showed up, and we had a great time. We decided to get back together. We talked it over a lot since we knew we were different people from who we were in high school, but ultimately, we agreed that we still loved each other and wanted to be together. Originally, I was going to leave a week after the party, but at the bar, my purse was stolen. I ended up staying in Fort Worth for 4 extra weeks while waiting for my ID and credit cards to arrive. During that time, we spent every day together. One day, we visited my family, and when they asked if we were in a relationship, Jim said, "Yes, she's my girlfriend." When I heard that, I realized it didn't feel like enough, so later in the car, I told him so. He proposed to me on the spot, and I said yes. At the same time, I asked what we would do about my move, and he suggested he come with me. Now it's been 2 years, and each day is a struggle. We recently came back to Texas, and I'm just over the relationship. I constantly have to remind him of what I expect from him and how I require respect. During each argument, he always tries to flip it on me, saying, "Why should I be a perfect husband if you're not being a perfect wife?" Whenever I ask what he'd like me to do, he never gives me a straight answer. He either avoids the question or blows up at me. He also has a habit of forgetting almost everything I tell him. For example, I told him that the Verizon representative said I shouldn't be charged an activation fee, and if I was, I should call Verizon to get it waived. I literally told him this right before I made the call to Verizon. While I was on the phone, he turned to me and asked who I was talking to. I told him it was Verizon, and he directly said, "Why?" Like, "Sir, I told you right before the call, a week ago, and when I got the phone." I know it shouldn't bother me this much, but after so many instances, it's exhausting. I should clarify that neither of us has had a steady job in a few months, but that's a whole different story. So we've literally spent every waking hour together for months. I finally got a temporary job that lasts only 2 months, and it's been tough. He's literally always worried. On my first day, I made a couple of friends, one of whom offered me a ride so I wouldn't have to take the bus. I originally refused, knowing I didn't know him that well and that it was kind of weird. But he said I lived on his route home, so I agreed and texted Jim that I got a ride. I should add that I'm a couch potato and don't exercise much, and the job was extremely physically intense. If I hadn't been so drained, I definitely would have given the guy, let's call him Terry, a hard no. Anyway, when Jim finally saw my message, he asked who the guy was and why he'd give a stranger a ride. When I didn't respond in 2 minutes, he called me. I explained that I had a long, exhausting day and Terry was kind enough to offer a ride. Jim yelled at me on the phone, saying guys don't just give girls rides if they don't expect something in return. He criticized my decision-making and hung up. Mind you, everyone at the company knew who I was leaving with, just in case, and I took down Terry's name and license plate, saving it in my notes. When Terry dropped me off at my apartment complex, I had him leave me near the front since I don't like people knowing exactly where I live unless I trust them. This turned out to be a huge mistake as it upset Jim even more. We argued all day, and it lasted through the weekend. He's always had trust issues. Ever since I admitted at the beginning of our relationship that all my previous relationships had been either polyamorous or open. And although I've done nothing but stay faithful to him, he still doubts me. I've given him full access to all my devices and passwords. I tell him about everything I do and who I'm with, and yet he still insists I'll cheat on him one day. He's the only person I think about and talk about. Even in the car with Terry, all I did was talk about Jim. At this point, I resent the relationship. It's been a week since our argument, and I'm over it. I want to leave, but financially, it's not an option. I feel so trapped. I talked to my sister about it, and she admitted she's never seen me as depressed as I am when I'm with him. She told me I look older and don't have the same spark and energy I used to. That broke me. I can't stay here, but I don't know what to do. Every day is a struggle, and it just feels like it's getting harder. Is there any way to remedy this? Like, would counseling help? Or should I try to leave with no money and nowhere to go? I'd appreciate any opinions or advice. Thank you for reading. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Looks like Jim is suffering from a severe case of insecurity. But hey, at least he's always worried about you, right? That's a sign of true love. I mean, who wouldn't want a partner who constantly questions their every move and accuses them of cheating for accepting a ride from a helpful coworker? Time to find a new couch potato to snuggle up with, my friend. Comment 2. You should break up. Next time, date for at least a year, preferably longer, before moving in, and live together for at least a year, preferably longer, before getting engaged. This could have easily been avoided if you took your time getting to know each other as partners, instead of getting engaged within a month of dating. Now, for the update. My life is like a bad reality show, you guys. I'm pretty sure the producers are just laughing at my bad luck. A week after my last post, Jim and I had a huge argument over dinner at our apartment. You know, the place where I pay for everything? Yeah, that one. So Jim accused me of not being supportive of his job search. Let me remind you, I was working overtime and handling everything at home. I had no idea I was supposed to be his personal cheerleader too. So I reminded him of that. And what does he say? He says I'm prioritizing my job over our relationship. Cue the shouting match. Oh, and spoiler alert. Jim storms out, slams the door behind him, and I'm left standing there like, what just happened? After he left, I called my sister to vent about the argument. Seriously, she is my lifeline at this point. She's the only one who can still tolerate my ramblings. After listening to me rant about Jim's ridiculousness for the millionth time, she suggested we meet up for lunch to talk things over. We met at a local diner, and while I was explaining all the details of my messed up relationship, my sister pointed out that Jim's behavior seemed controlling. I brushed off the comment, insisting Jim was just stressed. I mean, aren't we all? The next day, Jim returned home late from a supposed meeting with friends. I'm thinking, wow, you actually have a social life outside of me. But then I noticed he reeked of perfume not worn by me. You can guess what happened next. I started doing some detective work. Jim claimed he had been talking to a coworker about job leads. Sure, buddy. I found a series of texts with a woman named Lisa who was very flirty. I mean, we're talking emojis and everything. Jim comes out of the shower and catches me looking at the texts. He flips out and accuses me of violating his privacy. Yeah, because snooping through his phone is the real crime here. In the heat of the moment, he admits he had met Lisa for drinks, but insists it was nothing serious. Oh, and then he has the nerve to call me paranoid. Frustrated, I packed a bag and left to stay with my sister for a few days. While packing, I found a note in Jim's jacket pocket with a date and location for a surprise party. I mean, come on, dude, really? At my sister's house, I got a call from Jim, who wanted to talk. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop to discuss everything. I don't know why. I must have had a brain fart. During our meeting, Jim was all apologetic and said he wanted to work on the relationship. A few days later, he showed up at my sister's house with flowers and a heartfelt letter. You know, the usual stuff. That evening, my sister threw a small family dinner, and guess who was invited? You got it, Jim. At the dinner, Jim made a toast, thanking everyone for their support. Everyone? Oh, you mean everyone except for me, the one who actually supports him? I felt the eyes of my family on me, and it was like being under a spotlight. After dinner, I pulled Jim aside to talk about our issues again. He insisted that he was done with Lisa and wanted to focus on our future. Just as I started to consider forgiving him, my sister burst in, looking frantic. She revealed that she had seen Jim with Lisa at a nearby bar the night before. My world came crashing down in that moment. I confronted Jim again, and he stammered and tried to deny it, but the evidence was too much. In a surprising twist, he confessed he had been struggling with feelings of inadequacy. Then he left. My sister and I just sat there in shock. As we were processing all of this, the phone rang. It was a call from Terry, my coworker, offering me a new job opportunity. So that's where I'm at right now, just waiting for the next plot twist in my soap opera of a life. To answer a few questions, Jim had previously been a good partner, but things changed after I moved to Texas with him. His anxiety and trust issues intensified, making me question if I should stay with him or leave. My job situation was unstable, but Terry's offer provided some hope. The surprise party Jim planned was for our engagement anniversary, which made the whole situation even more complicated. My family always supported us, but their patience was wearing thin. Am I the idiot for refusing to be my sister's bridesmaid and sending an anonymous letter instead? Missy's sister, 28-year-old, we'll call her Anya, has gotten engaged recently, prompting calls and texts to Missy. While Missy is a little mad at me for letting Anya get married first, she is indifferent towards the subject of her sister getting married. Some backstory from Missy. Anya was always the golden child in her house. We all know the type. Better gifts, better parties, more support towards life goals. On top of that, Missy was always treated like a common house slave by both her parents, grandparents, and her sister. This sounded kind of preposterous to me when we first started dating, almost 5 years ago. Well, that all became abundantly clear soon after we became official. I pushed her past her comfort zone, got her out of the house more, and eventually got her to drop out of the college she was forced into to pursue a career in a field she really enjoys. It turns out her family wasn't a fan of Missy becoming more confident and happy. About 5 to 6 months into our relationship, her parents decided that all the time she had spent with me was corrupting her and turning her into someone they didn't recognize. So naturally, they gave her an ultimatum: leave him or move out. Needless to say, she moved in with me and my parents the next weekend. It took some time, but we finally got invited back for some holidays. A Christmas here, a birthday there, maybe a Thanksgiving. Sounds good, right? Missy improving her relationship with her family in a healthy way as an adult. Of course not. Every gathering we got an invitation to was actually an invitation to come clean the house and help with party preparations. Only then were we graced with the ability to stay and cater to her family. Meanwhile, every time Anya was there, she would be hanging out, scrolling her phone, or getting drunk with her parents. So naturally, we started making excuses on why we couldn't make it to their events. After a few of our no-shows, they stopped asking, and for the past 2 or so years, we only hear from them when they need something. At least they come right out and ask it now. Back to the point here, Missy got a text from Anya a few days ago asking to meet up for lunch and that she wants to talk. An odd fact about the text is that Anya timestamped it in the text like, "Hey, let's get food this Tuesday sent November 21st. Missy and I chalked this up to it being a way to go back and tell the family. I tried to plan a week in advance, but she just won't find time for me. Missy and I also know this whole lunch outing is to ask her to be a bridesmaid, which in normal circumstances is an honor and delight. Missy knows, though, it's just a name in a ceremony she doesn't want to be a part of. Being a bridesmaid in Missy's mind means driving Anya around anywhere she wants to go concerning wedding planning, paying for dresses, cake, venue, etc. Missy and I are nowhere near well off enough to be paying for any of those things, never mind the gas to drive her around. Somehow, the idea of her old life and her family is creeping back into Missy's head, and she is having a tough time standing her ground on what she wants. Now for an update. We got an invitation to the engagement party. It's the day after Missy's birthday. Therefore, she can only see this as another attempt to steal a day from her, as so many were in the past. My big questions are, I know she doesn't want to be a part of it for fear of being used. Even if the fear of being used was off the table, I'm not convinced she would want to go anyway. We also both know the potential fallout if her golden child sister doesn't get what she wants. How do I tell her she doesn't have to feel bad for doing what she wants, not going, instead of being the people pleaser she always tries to be? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You two are not in the financial position for her to be a bridesmaid. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. This explanation covers everything. You can't afford the bridesmaid dress, hair, nails, shoes, attending all the parties and showers, and even any extras, because if you don't work, you don't get paid. Plus, if you two decide to go to the wedding, you don't have to buy an extravagant gift because you've already told her you are financially strapped. Believe me, saying you can't afford something covers a lot of ground. Comment 2. Yes, I forgot to add, she is in therapy and doing phenomenal. Still, it's only been about 3 months now, and some of her old demons still haunt her. She's practicing saying no to me and has been doing amazing with her progress. She was always a yes to anything type of person. Now she is getting regular about it. If she doesn't want to run to the store or do something specific, she won't. Now for the update. It's been a little over 2 days since Anya sent the invite for her engagement party. You know, the one that totally made me feel like a total afterthought on my own birthday? Yeah, that one. So, here's the tea. Missy decided to skip her birthday dinner with her family because, honestly, she just couldn't deal with the stress. She was a little upset about it at first, but I totally get it. I mean, who wants to be the target for all the family drama? I suggested we just chill at home, order takeout, watch some horrible reality TV, and just forget about it all. I know it sounds lame, but Missy was happy with that plan, so I was too. So, on Missy's birthday, Anya called her to wish her well. Like, how sweet of her, right? Except she just had to casually drop the engagement party invite in there too. She was all like, oh, everyone will be there, and will really miss you. Missy was rolling her eyes so hard at that call, she probably saw her brain. Anya expected her to be there, and she wanted her to know it. That pressure was just so typical of Missy's family. I suggested we celebrate by watching movies and ordering pizza. I mean, it's a classic, but a classic for a reason. Missy seemed down to just chill, so I was glad she was feeling better. We're sitting there, enjoying our pizza and watching some cheesy rom-com when Missy gets this text from her mom. And guess what? It's about family plans after the engagement party, including a brunch. Wow, how original. Missy just rolled her eyes again. I pointed out that she really should voice her feelings about the brunch. I know she was hesitant, but she finally sent a message saying she wouldn't be attending. It was a small step, but a good one. The next day, Anya posted a photo of her engagement party on social media. And get this, the photo included a big cake that Anya claimed was Missy's birthday cake. I was like, are you kidding me? My jaw almost hit the floor. So of course, Missy was upset about that. I suggested we host a small get-together with friends that weekend to help her feel better about her birthday. Missy agreed, and it made me happy to see her wanting to do something fun. We invited a few close friends over for pizza and games. I mean, what else would we have? It was a blast. We just let loose and had some fun, which is exactly what Missy needed. During the gathering, Missy got a call from her mom. I could see Missy's face getting all tense, and I knew it wasn't going to be good. Her mom asked if she planned to attend the brunch, but she sounded annoyed. When Missy explained she had other plans and wouldn't be there, their mom raised her voice. She was all, family comes first. Typical, right? The next morning, Missy found a letter from Anya in the mailbox. It expressed disappointment over Missy not being a bridesmaid. I mean, how dramatic can you get? The letter pretty much demanded an explanation, and I was just over it. I suggested that Missy write a response to Anya's letter, but not just any response. She decided to detail all the ways Anya had hurt her in the past. It was about time someone called out her bull. We printed the letter and included a copy of Anya's photo with the cake, just to remind her of her inconsiderate behavior. I proposed sending the letter anonymously to Anya, and Missy agreed. She thought it would send a message without confrontation, which I totally understood. So we mailed the letter, and Missy felt both empowered and anxious. I just hoped she wouldn't regret it later. On the day of the brunch, Missy and I went out for breakfast. We were just trying to have a good day and forget about the drama for a while. While we were at the diner, we spotted Anya and their mom having brunch. Oh, the irony. Anya looked flustered while checking her phone, probably expecting a reply to the letter that had been sent. I knew she was waiting for a response. Later that evening, Missy received a call from an unknown number, and I just knew it was Anya. It was her, furious about the letter and demanding to know who sent it. Missy didn't reveal anything, just letting Anya rant. I could see Missy's face, and she was trying so hard not to smile. She just knew how much this was bothering Anya, and honestly, so did I. The call ended with Anya vowing to confront their mom about the situation. I mean, we all knew that was coming. Mini update. Anya's confrontation with their mom was wild. Mom was furious when she found out about the letter. She called Missy, losing it, and demanded to know who sent it. Missy stayed quiet, knowing that if she told her mom it was me, she'd be in for it. So, Missy just let her rant. I could see how stressed Missy was, but I also knew this was her mom's fault. They always wanted to control Missy and her life. Missy eventually told her mom it was none of her business. She hung up, and we both felt relieved. Missy finally stood up for herself. Am I the idiot for telling my parents they're ruining my brother's life by letting him be a lazy freeloader? My brother is very sweet, but has always been immature and a bit of an outcast. He has always needed extra support, but my parents have always enabled his immature behavior, anything to keep the peace. This has been the case since we were young, but has compounded slowly. In school, he drifted towards the outcasts, but was generally liked. He was never really involved with activities, and he prefers to spend his time playing video games or watching shows. But he has a really great group of friends. He has a fairly bad speech impediment and struggles with self-confidence. Did I mention he was immature? He is like a 12-year-old in a 23-year-old's body. He did graduate college with a bachelor's degree in information technology. But if I were to sum him up, I'd say he just doesn't get it. He doesn't know what presentable work looks like. He doesn't know how to interview. He has somehow been fired from 2 entry-level jobs and has not put in really any effort to do anything since graduating. He is holed up in his room, going to bed late, waking up late, and just playing video games all day with his parents enabling him. I think he's depressed, and I want to help him. I want him to go see a therapist and make incremental improvements. I want him to start working on his interviewing skills and technical abilities. I want him to become not reliant on his mom. I've sat my brother down and expressed to him that his current lifestyle isn't sustainable. I've expressed that I want to help him and that he could lean on me. I told him that therapy is a great option and something he should consider. I told him that I just need him to take that initial step and reach out to me. I'll spend hours helping. And he just kind of brushed me off and said, yeah. That was weeks ago, and nothing has changed. He hasn't reached out asking for help. Right now, he's with our parents, and I can see why he doesn't really want to do anything. He gets everything for free. He doesn't need to work. He doesn't pay rent. He's constantly enabled. But he's still young, and there's still so much potential. It's not hopeless. Far from it. What could I do? Do I just take the first step for him? I am so frustrated with him, and it's affecting my relationship. I get stressed and anxious on his behalf. Part of me wants to give up on him, but I would never. What could I do? What have your siblings done to help you? I think if I wait for him to make the first move, nothing is going to happen. I want to help him, but I don't want to do everything for him. Should I tell our parents to kick him out? I feel like I've been super gentle with him, and nothing has changed. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Talk to your parents about the need for your brother to take on some responsibilities. Encourage them to set expectations, such as contributing to chores or finding a part-time job. Sometimes, a little discomfort can motivate change. Comment 2. I fundamentally disagree with this notion, and frankly, find it to be a naive and immature perspective. Such deeply seated and internal problems are not solved by falling in love. Now, for the update. It's been just over a month since my last post about my brother. I honestly thought that by now, things would have gotten better between us, but it's basically the same story. A few weeks ago, I had a birthday dinner for my mom at our house. Everyone was there: my brother, parents, sister, and my brother's childhood friend, Mark. It's been years since Mark has been around, and I honestly didn't think he would show up. He and my brother used to be super close, like the type of friends that were more like brothers. But then they grew apart after Mark graduated and moved away for work. My brother was still in school at that time, working part-time retail jobs and gaming all night. Same stuff, really. So it was a bit weird seeing Mark again. I was hoping he could talk some sense into my brother since they used to be so close. He used to look up to Mark, and I thought maybe his opinion would matter this time. The dinner went well. My parents liked the food, and my mom got all emotional about the decorations. It's hard to believe that a few years ago, my brother was decorating our house for Christmas with my mom. This year, he basically rolled his eyes and said it was stupid when I asked him to help me with the lights outside. Anyway, back to the dinner. My brother seemed quieter than usual, glued to his phone during dinner. I noticed he was texting Mark a lot, which was unusual since they hadn't hung out in years. After dinner, we all moved to the living room for cake. My dad asked my brother about job hunting, and he shrugged it off. That kind of stuff used to concern my parents, but not anymore. They just let him do his thing now. My mom brought up Mark's recent promotion at work. My brother got defensive and said he wasn't interested in work. I saw Mark roll his eyes at that comment. After cake, Mark pulled my brother aside to talk privately. I overheard them arguing in the hallway about my brother's lack of ambition. My brother raised his voice, saying he didn't need a lecture. Mark walked away, shaking his head in frustration. The whole thing was just sad, you know? A few days later, I noticed my brother wasn't home a lot. At first, I thought he was just gaming late at night like usual, but then I found out he was hanging out with Mark again, going to parties and staying out late. I confronted him about it, and he laughed, saying he was finally having fun. I told him he needed to focus on his future instead of partying. He pushed back, saying he was tired of being treated like a child. I suggested he find a job, but he dismissed it, saying he didn't need my advice. A week later, I saw him at a bar with Mark and a few of Mark's friends. I texted him to come home, but he ignored my messages. My parents started to notice his absence too, and expressed concern. At the next family dinner, I brought up my brother's behavior. My parents brushed it off, saying he was just having fun and would figure things out. They used to be so strict with him. They wouldn't let him go out after 10 p.m. and would freak out if he didn't text them to say he was home safe. But now they barely notice when he's not here. And I guess I can't really blame them, though. I stopped caring about my brother's whereabouts a long time ago. A couple of weeks later, I discovered my brother had dropped out of a job training program without telling anyone. I confronted him again, and he claimed he never wanted to do it in the first place. He didn't even have a good reason for dropping out. He just said it was lame and he didn't want to do it. I was so frustrated. That weekend, my parents planned a family outing to help lift everyone's spirits. My brother refused to go, saying he was busy. I found out later he was at a party with Mark instead. He's always busy when there's a family gathering, but somehow he always has time for Mark and his friends. Eventually, I learned he and Mark were planning to start a YouTube channel about gaming. I don't know what it's going to be about, since there are already a million channels like that. Maybe they think they're going to be the next PewDiePie or something ridiculous like that. At a family gathering for Thanksgiving, tensions were high. My parents confronted him about his choices, and he stormed out. He hasn't really been home much since then. I learned that my brother had decided to move in with Mark, leaving our parents' house behind. My parents were understandably upset. They thought he was just going through a phase, but now it's clear that he really wants to live this lifestyle. I asked him how he could just leave like that, and he told me it was none of my business. So here we are. Still a mess, but at least things are a bit more interesting, I guess. To answer a few questions, my parents are upset about my brother moving out, but are not taking any serious action to stop him. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.